Greetings from New Jersey. Problem with this class is teaching so many different groups this class that I forget where I'm at. And with Dhanurdhara Swami, I'm studying the same chapter. So let's see. Reading from the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, Book 1, Chapter 2, Text 68. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vihāya yajña-karmāṇi bhaktyotthāya maharṣibhiḥ. praṇamya dhyāna-niṣṭho yajñeśvara-vad arcitaḥ. The great sage put aside their sacrificial rituals, stood up with devotion, bowed down to the boy who was absorbed in meditation, and worshipped him as if he were the Lord of sacrifice himself. Bhrigu and the others honored the little boy who remained silent. Om yajña-karmāṇi shalakaya chaksur unmulatam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanshakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, to put things in a little context, the objective of this book is to present the mission of Lord Chaitanya, which is to give Namo Mahabodhanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate, to give Krishna Prema, give the highest conception of love for God. And it's done through a story of Maharaj Bṛhad summarizing to Uttara the Bhagavatam, and obviously a summary. She's not going to sit there for 7 days not eating or drinking. And it's done through a story that parallels the Bhagavatam in the sense of presenting an ultimate goal and presenting stories that give you the frame of reference to be able to perceive the ultimate goal when it's spoken, by purifying your understanding and your attitude, and inspiring your attention, attracting you to it. And it's done through Narada's journey, progressive journey to higher and higher realms and higher levels of intimacy. And it's a repeated theme of being satisfied and not satisfied, He's satisfied because he's finding devotion. See, I'm confusing it now with the other book I'm teaching on Gop Kumar. But he's going to higher and higher levels of. Oh, wait, we are on the story of Gop Kumar. I'm teaching to the Russians. Okay. So he's going to higher and higher levels of places that support the devotion. You are in a place, or you go to a place, or you want to go to a place that supports the type of love you want. And we go to different places because we want different types of love. We may go to a sporting event because we appreciate Shantaras, appreciation. No one's thinking of serving the team, but you're applauding the team, or a rock concert. Another thing is for family. Another thing is romantic setting. So he goes to different places which are supporting different types of love of the person whom he loves with the devotees whom he admires. Now I'm going back to the first book. This is really difficult for me teaching these two books. So Gop Kumar is searching for the fulfillment of his mantra, which gives him a certain sense of Bhagavat Sarup Gyan, knowledge of God. He doesn't have he has an intuitive sense, not yet an intellectual sense. And the relationship he wants of, and his Ishtadev is Madan Gopal, because he's got the Gopal mantra. So Gop Kumar is in search of the fulfillment. Remember, he gets mantra by Guru, but without proper instruction. But he has faith. And that faith is and ultimately, it is the faith. The understanding is to support the faith, to support your goal based on your experience. So he's going now his journey, at least, each place that he goes, he has this satisfaction and this I'm with my Lord, but not in the place that supports the relationship I want with my Lord. He doesn't know that intellectually, but intuitively he feels that. And therefore, because he's chanting that mantra, in the back of his consciousness is always Braj, the place that supports that type of love, even though he doesn't really know that the object of his love is in Braj. He's very simple. So his whole life is not overridden, oversighted, I don't know, purviewed by an intellectual understanding. So remember, the beginning of this, he even went back to Braj, but he didn't find his God there. And then he wanted to go back to Jagannath. There was his God, but that wasn't the God he wanted. I'm studying the 14th chapter of the Antya-lila with some people, and Lord Chaitanya is sitting before Jagannath, and he's viewing Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra within his bhav. He's seeing Brajendra Nandana Krishna. and his brother and his sister, but he's seeing Brajendranandan and Krishna. He's meditating on Jagannath. He's in Vrindavan. He sees the rasa dance. He's in this complete revelation of reciprocation, because one part of understanding God and understanding any person is the person's desire to give their inner self to you, whom you have a relationship with. And it may not be given so one person is seen in different ways by many, many different people. So he's looking at his deities of Jagannath, and then this woman climbs on his back to get a better view of it. His assistant is shocked how offensive this is. A lady to climb on a sannyasi, but anyone to put their feet on a higher being. She's trying to put her feet on Jagannath, on Lord Chaitanya's shoulders. She's climbing on his back, a woman. And he chastises her, get down. And Lord Chaitanya wakes up. And then he turns to his servant Govinda and says, Adi Vasya, you low-class aboriginal fool. Why this lady, Jagannath Avishta, she's absorbed in Jagannath. Bhagavati, she is the most fortunate person in the world. I only wish I have her arti. I wish I had her greed. And then Lord Chaitanya, he was broken from his inner meditation. And then he sees Lord Jagannath as the Lord of the universe, not Brajendranandan and Krishna. He sees him as the king of Dwarka. And then he's in separation. He's in separation. So that same person, you can have moods in their association of happiness and union and ecstasy, and at the same time separation. If that person is in an environment where he cannot express their particular person, whom you have a relationship, a lover, a friend, a parent, etc. And the whole point of this story is the ultimate revelation of God as a Kakila Rasamrita Murti. The ultimate revelation of God as Akila Rasamrita Murti, the full embodiment of love. Akila Rasamrita Murti, the embodiment. Akila Rasamrita. Sri Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavato Mati. The opinion. Sri Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavato. The opinion of the mind and the mood. Sri Krishna Bhakti, of our relationship with Krishna. This is what happens to Gop Kumar. He's satisfied, he's dissatisfied with the same person. And ultimately, he's dissatisfied for two reasons. One, if that person is not there, he's dissatisfied. Or when he's there and he remembers his relationship with that person intuitively, that he cannot fully appreciate there. So where are we now? The sages, the maharshis, they're also the prajapatis, the maharishis, the real great rishis, the real great sages. They come to heaven. We always see this theme that the great souls, they sometimes out of spiritual impetus, travel to give what they have to others. They're servants of God, and they're in the universe. And when you're servants of God and you're in the universe, you have a universal service. You're demigods. You're in the government. You're rishis. You're in the government still. So they have their duties. They have their responsibilities. They have their compassion. And when Gopkumar sees them and sees that the residents of heaven, even Upendra and all the great, they're bowing down to them, he goes to their place where they worship yajñeśvara. In their sacrifices, God is appearing in all his splendor and all his beauty. And then this other theme that happens is Gopkumar, that simplicity, that freedom from false ego, that consciousness of simply wanting to serve. It's so attractive. Wherever that person is, it's so attractive. Even Gopkumar was the king of heaven. He didn't stay there. He stayed in gardens, and he's very simple. He never was allured by that type of an attraction, which is another theme. When I'm studying this with Niranjan Swami, just peeling off the levels of themes that Sanatana Goswami has weaved into this narrative. That's another theme. Abrahma, Bhuvana, Loka, Puna Abhitana. From the highest to the top, you come down again. Tasyeva heto priyateta kovido talabhyate yad brahmatamu. Those are intelligent. They don't go for this. The theme of the Puranas. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha dosha darsha. The real problem, material existence, is whatever station of life you're in, there's birth, death, disease, and old age. Unless you become liberated and you're identifying with the soul, so there's no death. The death is of your identity, which you're attached to. If you don't identify with that, there's no fear. The whole purpose of the Bhagavatam is to bring you to that point where the body, where the body is changing. You're not, but it's like a change of clothes, and it's just functional for you. You're not getting so disturbed. Another outfit. You already said, I wore so many in my life. I wore my baby outfit. You know how the mothers, they save, and then kids grow. Wow, that must be such hellish for the parents. The kids grow. You kind of keep on giving them new clothes, and people save clothes, and they don't use them, and they give them to someone else. No tragedy. So that theme, also with these big rulers, there's always problem. There's always something. And then when Gopkumar sees that they're worshiping someone higher, then he sees, who are these great saints? Then he's in Maharloka, and that's beautiful. Except when the tinges of separation from Braj comes intuitively, because he's chanting that mantra, because he has faith. That's another thing. He's simple, but he has faith. He may not have so much knowledge, but he has faith. That's some samskara in the consciousness that may come in a proper society. Acharyamam vijanayam navamanyeta karhi chit. Krishna in the Bhagavatam says, worship the Acharya as my very self. And who is that? It's all your authorities which are in a proper society represent God. Honor thy mother and father. They're God in their own way. That's samskara of simple faith, which is hard to keep in the material world, in the modern world, because that simplicity of faith, you can be cheated. Praṇalpa yashashubha kalavas min yuge janaha manda sumanda mateo manda bhaga upadruta manda sumanda. Unfortunate, because you that faith can be cheated. But so far his faith is just carrying him. And he's on Mahaloka, and then at the end of one day, and I saw the number now, one day of Brahma, 640,320,000 years. And universal devastation, and it's scorching, and Mahaloka is right next to Janaloka, so he goes to Janaloka. It's a little bit higher. And then another theme, each place has 1,000,000 times more happiness than the others on a material platform. Each place, people become more qualified to serve God, and the more qualified you are to serve God, the more you will see the material energy for his service and not be contaminated by it. So of course there's such opulence there. Why not? For the service of God. Why not? For the service of God. So he goes now to, and then it resides, he goes back to Mahaloka. And then, when he's at Mahaloka, same theme. It's not his ultimate destination. So he can never be firmly rooted there, even though he finds something there that's commensurate with his devotional feelings, but not his ultimate feelings. So he can never be rooted there. And these young boys, and that's where we're today, these young boys come. And the great sages, vihāya, yajña-karmāṇi, they put away their sacrificial worships, bhaktyotthāya, and they stand up with devotion. Maharṣibhiḥ, these great sages, the maharshis are doing that. Praṇamya, bowing down to this boy who was dhyāna-niṣṭho. Dhyana, he was this boy who was absorbed in meditation and who yajñeśvara-vad, like the Lord of Sacrifice, he worshiped the Lord of Sacrifice himself. So Bṛhad was worshiping this. So again, the simplicity of Gop Kumar, he doesn't really have Aishvarya Gyan. He doesn't have knowledge of God's greatness or something, so he never says, oh, this is the place. Yata kaman gate tasmin maya prishta maharshaya kutvatya katamo vayam Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. After that person, as it pleased him, went away, I inquired from the maharshis, who was that and where did he come from? Why is that you great souls worshipped him? And if you worship them, I want to be with them, because I want to see who they worship, and I want to see if it's the Lord of the universe. Purport, the boy was so exalted that no force could impede him from going wherever he wanted. By his own sweet will, he left as suddenly as he had come. Seeing this puzzled Gop Kumar. The sages of Mahaloka were worshipable for the demigods. Living in a realm above all other creatures, the sages enjoyed worshiping the Lord of sacrifice in person. Who other than the Lord could command such respect? And why had they interrupted their sacrifice to honor their visitor? Basically, they think this must be God, this must be God's representative. Who is he? Samarshya Uchu, Sanat Kumar Namayam, Sanat Kumara Namayam, Jeshtos Makam Mahatama, Atmaram Apta Kamanam, Adyacharyo Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. The Maharshi said, that person is Sanat Kumar, the eldest among us and the greatest. He is the first preceptor of the self-controlled sages, whose desires are fulfilled, and he is a lifelong celibate. Purport. The chief residents of Mahaloka are sons of Brahma, and Sanat Kumar is their brother, the eldest of Brahma's son. He is better than the other sages because, unlike them, he never entered family life, even on Brahma's request. This answers the question, who is that? So he's the oldest, even though he has a benediction not to grow older, kind of like probably the origin of Peter Pan, if you know who that is. And so they're all Brahma's sons, but he's the first. And he never entered family life. So again, I make the point that our philosophy is not renunciation, it's dedication. And there are great renunciates who are not as great as people dedicated to God in family life. In fact, Prabhupada pointed out that his disciples, his married disciples, who went to England and met the Beatles and preached there, his married disciples did so much more than Bhaktisiddhanta's sannyasis. And I personally see that some of my grihastha godbrothers taking position of guru are more detached than sannyasis. And Burijan Prabhu made that point to me. He said, if, and I guess, you're all hearing from me, you'll hear the same points again, but maybe you don't remember them. But Burijan said, this is after, so I can take questions. Burijan said that a grihastha, a man, has the austerity of a wife. So they have license to take some material enjoyment, but they have this, they pay. There's a method of purification. But if a sannyasi takes that, then there's problems. How will they become purified? Now, it's a subtle point because Prabhupada said we can't be sannyas like the days of yore, and it's given for preaching. And as Kripamoya, a great Vaishnava, said, he wrote a book on Guru Tattva, and he described the sannyas as the sannyas cardinals. I mean, you see, the cardinals and the princes of the so that's there. Ultimately, our advancement is our absorption in Krishna. But here, we don't want to either, in a balanced way, neglect that those who can renounce the world and live a detached life and fully absorb themselves in Krishna consciousness. The problem is in Kali Yuga, it's not recommended because too often people become distracted. And then the ashram is, rather than facilitating the remembrance in Krishna, is increasing their material absorption. But we respect. You know, I wrote that article once, is the sannyas ashram obsolete? I think what I'm going to do now is read that. What I find is when people ask me questions, I've already written something about it. One person I know, it was a grihasta, and somehow his guru told him you should chant 64 rounds. And he chanted 64 rounds. You have to know him to know why his guru told him to do that. And he did it. But then he wrote me, you know, he's Indian, and he wrote me that he was taking some Ayurvedic treatment, and there was this Brahmin Ayurvedic doctor, and started quoting from the Ramayana about Brahma Gyan and from the Mahabharata. And then he said, oh my God, it's affecting my chanting. I said, why is it affecting your chanting? Is it just a contamination, or you're starting to believe it? He said, I don't know. They're presenting such. And then I just sent them my Monday morning greetings. Is God a person? And then gave an argument that Professor Matthew Dasty, we know as Mahamuni, gave me against impersonalism. How do they describe this world? If there's undifferentiated oneness, how do they describe this world? They say it's an illusion, Maya. But there has to be a basis of illusion. So what's the subject of illusion? So they will say Brahman. But if Brahman is the subject of illusion, it's not Brahman, it's not the greatest. And also, it's not one, because there's two things. There's Brahman and illusion. So I sent him this, and I sent my article. And he went, oh, Gurudev, thank you. Oh my God, thank you. So now, I think I may do this in the future. Call up my Monday morning greetings. And I coined that phrase, waves of devotion. Has sannyas become obsolete? There used to be a framed photograph on the wall of the temple side of Prabhupada's house, just to the right of his bed, that I always found intriguing. It was an arranged portrait of Srila Prabhupada standing in front of the Krishna Balar Mandir with most of his sannyasis, a couple of dozen or more at the time. I seemed to remain the picture had been there during Srila Prabhupada's time. One day in the early 80s, I walked into his room and it was gone. I was a bit disturbed. Who has the right to take down a picture that was there during Srila Prabhupada's life? I realized why. If you study that picture carefully, almost every one of those sannyasis couldn't maintain their vows of celibacy and left. Perhaps it was taken down out of personal embarrassment by one of those fallen sannyasis who was still around. Or maybe a loyal disciple just felt it didn't look good for Srila Prabhupada's legacy. Even Srila Prabhupada admitted that his experiment of giving young men sannyas did not fare well. Quote, my godbrothers criticized me for many things, but one thing they are right about, that I gave young men sannyas. He then described in terms of a Bengali proverb his dilemma of needing to establish the sannyas ashram but having a paucity of candidates who qualified. Quote, but what can I do when there are no trees in the forest? The castor oil tree looks big. Srila Prabhupada needed to form an institution to carry out his mission and to maintain his legacy, which required a hierarchical corporate structure. For managing and guiding ISKCON, he formed the Governing Body Commission, more well known by the acronym GBC. In order to help inspire the preaching mission and to maintain the spiritual standards of his society, following in the footsteps of his own Guru Maharaj, he gave sannyas to his leading preachers. An order in society meant to serve as the spiritual authority of all other ashrams. And as he started his mission at the age of 70, there was also an intense urgency in everything he did, including creating the organizational structure of his mission. What choice did he have but to support young and inexperienced men as its leaders? But the more pressing question about the present necessity of maintaining a sannyas ashram, especially as its integrity seems more under question than ever before, still cases seem to arise almost yearly of a sannyasi either not being able to follow his vows of celibacy or setting an inappropriate example of renunciation. When leaders falter, the discussion of a spiritual society tend to veer from the beauty of God to the people who misrepresented him. And what follows is a significant social disturbance as predicted. It is no wonder that the legitimacy of an ashram of committed lifelong celibates in today's world is questioned. Besides these obvious challenges to the viability of maintaining the purity of the sannyas order and the devastating results when members falter, there is another doubt about its relevance today. The influence of the sannyas ashram is predicated on the fact that the society it serves understands and respects its role. When Srila Prabhupada was here, that was not a problem. The Hare Krishna movement was directly under the jurisdiction of ISKCON through its local centers. So the order of sannyas was within a society where people were trained to honor it. In contrast today, the Hare Krishna community, at least in the first world, is increasingly outside the jurisdiction of the temples, where sannyasis, in and of itself, has little society relevance or influence. And as the devotee community and the greater community for outreach is composed mostly of people who by their culture practice little restraint in the social interaction between men and women, and in fact, the majority in fact seem to be women, one must question if a spiritually advanced married person is better suited for the service of preaching and intimately guiding those people. Kripamoya, in his book, The Guru and Disciple book, coined the phrase saffron cardinals to invoke some discussion concerning sannyas and ISKCON taking up the position of a guru. It's not difficult to see why. As sannyasis were the natural leaders of ISKCON during the time of Srila Prabhupada, they naturally also took up the leading roles in managing his society. And when Srila Prabhupada left the world, they also took up the service of initiating disciples. With those responsibilities naturally came a substantial number of followers and resources, which makes it challenging to lead a renounced life. Although it is understandable that when a sannyasi assumes that level of responsibility, he needs more material facility than traditional sannyasis, he still runs the risk of living more like a prince of the church than a simple monk who inspires renunciation. And that's where the problem lies. In Varnashram, the recommended social structure of India described in Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, the purpose of the sannyas ashram was to inspire the populace in the direction of a simple and spiritual life by power of their example as renunciants. If they fail to set that example, however, the spiritual growth of society will be stunted. Even worse, anyone who veers from their duty, and especially a sannyasi, will impede their own spiritual development. Although a man who enters household life has an allowance to enjoy material facility, he also has the austerity of a wife and family to become purified. But if a sannyasi lives excessively, then what means do they have to be further cleansed of attachments? My post here is not a definitive thesis on the subject. It's just meant as a part of the discussion of an obvious problem. The serious disturbance in society suffered when those with the responsibility of setting the example of renunciation either falter or set a bad example. Because of the limited scope of my weekly post, certain points must be briefly clarified about sannyas before I end this particular post. I am not discounting that. Whether renunciation is adopted in a formal manner or not, there is an obvious time in life where one needs to become completely detached from family life. My article also doesn't discount that despite the risk of taking sannyas, it affords one a greater facility to dedicate oneself to God, unencumbered by social and economic restraints. I am also not minimizing the very substantial things accomplished in Srila Prabhupada's mission by those who have made a commitment to the renounced order of life, even the ones who have later faltered in their vows. Likewise, I cannot help but honor the honest renunciates who, at tremendous sacrifice, continue to push on in the mission of Srila Prabhupada today, even if by some dint of their service, nature, health, or age, they may require a little more facility than is traditionally prescribed. Finally, it is my opinion that those souls who are exemplars of a simple and renounced life are still a much-needed inspiration in society. I am inspired by the remembrance of a picture in Srila Prabhupada's room with his sannyas disciples to write something on the status of the sannyas ashram today, especially as an issue that seems to be on people's minds. I have far from exhausted discussion on this subject. I have shared my thoughts and I welcome yours. So, I don't know how well the reading goes, because reading is something where you study and you go back to understand. While speaking, the person is negotiating the audience. When someone's writing something, he's negotiating the audience that's going to read, contemplate, think, check. When you're speaking, you're negotiating the audience in a different way that allows you to be more engaging than if you're stuck with a particular script. So I don't know how well this kind of works, but it's an important subject. And therefore, I glorify these great sannyasis, my godbrothers, who just preach selflessly. Maybe they have disciples, maybe a little more facility. And I also, those ones that are just simple and renounced. Do you remember when Jayadvaita Maharaj came to my Panayati festival and he's speaking about the sannyas of Raghunath Das Goswami, and he used the example of opulence as buying a sweater in Walmart. So, and who uses as his suchi kit a vomit bag from the airplane. There are people like that are really the traditional sannyasis, but people are not given sannyas just to be the traditional sannyasis. I once went to the Gaudiya Math after Krishnadas Babaji left, and I think Govinda Maharaj asked me, the Gaudiya Math where Mangal Maharaj, who was a disciple of Prabhupada's godbrother, but very, very senior, where, so I went to visit him. He was a kind of friend of mine. And it was also a kinshana Krishnadas Babaji used to stay sometimes. It's called the Gaudiya Math by the train station. And I was with Mangal Maharaj, and I said, Govinda Maharaj asked me to ask this question: is there anybody like Krishnadas Babaji, who is Hare Krishna, just chant all the time, and And he said yes, and he pointed to this Indupati Brahmachari. And I said, well, why isn't he sannyas? He says he doesn't have the. So it's kind of a difficulty because people get sannyas for preaching, and preaching entails a certain passion. They have to have this, and then they have to have this, and they're also expected to be this. So it's a real challenge. So, but in terms of the purport, that's just my own commentary, is that he had an advantage because he wasn't encumbered. But whether it's an advantage for most people, that's the question. One more verse. Ita udva tare loke tapasam ye visatyasau pratibis tribir anyascha yogi drai swasamasa. He lives in the world above ours called Tapaloka with his three brothers and with other great mystics who, like him, are masters of yoga. Here the sages answer the question, where did he come from? He is not the only one of his kind, for he has three brothers just as great as he, Sanaka, Sanandana, and Sanatan. These four brothers live on Tapaloka, along with other great mystics, including Kavi, Havis, Antariksha, Prabhuda, and Pipalayana. Because I've been studying this Niranjan Swami, there's like a great discussion coming up, and I forgot, but this Pipalayana kind of, I forgot what the question is to come up. But this is Ekadasi, and by Krishna's grace, because I eat so much, that it's no problem for me to do Nirjala Ekadasi. Because I just eat a lot by Krishna's grace. So to fast is like nothing, it's like a relief. But I haven't broken the fast yet, but Tokta is going to make something for me now. Are there any questions? Jamuna Jaya, yeah,
Yeah.
let's go.
Hare Krishna Raj, thank you so much for class. I love when you read the Monday morning greetings because it's a
Okay, it worked.
time to go back over it. And it's so funny because I read a little bit of Prabhupada Leelamrita every night, and I'm just out to the point where Small Krishna Das was asking for sannyas. So it's that whole thing and the discussion about, that Prabhupada wanted them to be preachers. I was just reading that, I think,
And he
2 days
was
ago.
married at the time,
At the time, yes.
the
And
poor wife.
yes. Prabhupada was saying, well, you've got this wife and you see his dilemma. And yeah, so I never knew that about Samal. I just always hear about him, about the stern sannyasi. I did not know he had been married.
He was married, but I don't know if you can call that marriage. The way it was like, imagine Cuba and the revolution and people in the hills, and it was so revolutionary that when Tamal Krishna, who's, has that power, saw that, the preaching that can be done, and yeah, and he took what he needed. I mean, he needed a certain facility, and he took it. And
Yeah,
and he,
that.
and he realized it wasn't traditional, but he just,
Mhm.
I'm going to do my service, and yeah, okay.
And it's amazing. And then, and I just, one other thing you, in your article, you said when anyone veers from their responsibilities in their particular ashram. I was just thinking it's like it's easy to point fingers at other ashrams, but am I staying true to the ashram I'm in? That's more the meditation. Am I veering from my own ashram instead of pointing
Well,
fingers at somebody else?
it's a nice Vaishnav mood,
Yeah.
but yeah, but veering from the ashram is so much more serious
Yeah.
when it's like celibacy and then, going, it causes such a disturbance in people, such a
Mhm.
lack of faith. And it points to the glory of Prabhupada because each one is an atomic bomb that would destroy each movement. But Prabhupada's mission goes on with faith and the people we have, and and there's challenges, but it still goes on. How is Janmashtami?
It was amazing, Maharaj. It was the first day we ever had at Buck Center, like all day. It was all day from noon up until midnight. And So it was wonderful. People coming and going. Raghu spoke and brought his mom. Uh, it's really,
99 years old.
and Grandma Terry's looking really good, actually.
He
So
brought his mother and she sat on the side.
she's in a wheelchair now. So we just got the elevator fixed just in time because the elevator had been broken. So she came. Yeah, he wasn't there for long. He came and rolled up to the front and he spoke and did a little
She
kirtan
was
and
there when he spoke, and then he left
yes,
with her.
yes, and
And
then
he
he left.
wheeled
Yep,
her in.
yep, yep, yep,
What
yep,
a great image, right?
yeah. With his youngest son Tarun, so Tarun was there, Raghu and Grandma
Well,
Terry. Yeah,
people must have worshipped her.
yeah, oh yeah. Everyone. Satyaraj was there. I think was still there and went over, and a bunch of people were coming up to her. It was like, oh, and of course Raghu when he was up there, I want everybody to say hello and
He
honor my
spoke, or
mother.
him and Kastuba spoke.
Yeah, no, just Raghu spoke because Tuba was there, but only Raghu spoke because after that Yadnath did one of his beautiful, funny pieces right about 9 o'clock, which was good to keep
Were you in
everybody
that
awake.
piece?
Yes, I made a brief cameo.
But it's encouraging because it seems like the Bhakti Center in the last few years went through different changes. It didn't seem that it was had a
Yeah,
compass, and it seems
yeah,
like it's kind of coming back.
yeah.
Now,
I think so
you
too.
should go to all their functions. It's important. Their main functions. That's your responsibility. Um, Prabhupada's mission. But okay, was it packed by the end?
It was packed by the end. During the day, it was dribble in, dribble out, but around by by 6:30 RT, it was pretty packed, and then it remained packed. And they had a room. They had the room upstairs that people want to break fast, and then they had an overfill room downstairs. So the later it got, the more packed it got.
And where did they possibly serve the feast?
So they had the fifth floor room, which is now we mostly use that for the yoga studio. They had some food
But the
during the day
fifth floor
there.
room is the yoga studio?
We have two now. One's on two, like right where the old temple, and then one on five. The big room on five is now also a yoga studio.
Okay, so still, how did they feed everybody? It
So
was
then everybody sort of moves to the front in the temple, and then a line gets organized. Somehow
they
it all
served the
manifests.
prasadam at the back.
Yeah, at the back. Yeah, at the back.
Okay, now here's the question. I'm very, in Jersey, we had four incredible subjis and we had kachoris with tamarind chutney. Um, there were just so many, the dal, everything, so many, our standard. So I have a little high standard, and I think there should be so what was the feast like?
Well, of course, remember who you're talking to, Maharaj. So I took like a piece of cake and I went home because I was so
No, not
tired.
for you. If everyone's like you, they don't need they can give out little maha cups. I'm not talking about you.
It looked very opulent, but I didn't. I was like, I'm not broaching that line. I'm getting out of here now. So
How many preparations?
I think let me think.
What?
I think there are about seven. I think.
Seven? Okay. That's something. It's something.
That's not as good as Jersey, I know, but it was something.
No, it's not a Jersey was like, wow. There was palak paneer, there was like this nice fried bindi, there was these baked vegetables, there was another sabji, there was kachoris with great kachoris with chutney, then there was a rice, then there was a tapioca thing with nuts. I don't know what that is. There that what chapatis and dal and but then there was the sweets, including Jai Subhadra's sweet rice, all things that you have no interest in, but
I'm
Jai,
glad everyone enjoyed.
Jai Subhadra's sweet rice and incredible cookies and cupcakes and different things and yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. And did you do anything for Prabhupada? Did they have?
Yeah, so they had I viewed in from home. They had in the after, well, on Sunday there was this big India Day parade
Yeah.
that ISKCON they were going to do the festival in the afternoon, but a lot of people ended up going there. It went down Sixth Avenue, I guess.
Yeah.
And so there was a Prabhupada, Vasudev did an RT, and then it was pretty low key. And then there was just some offerings like Adi sang.
What time?
It was 4:30. Yeah,
Oh, and how
it
many
was the
people? 20, 30 people?
yeah, 20, between 20 and 30, I'd say. Pretty small.
Okay. But then they had something in the Brooklyn Temple.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay. Thanks for giving me the report. I
yeah.
enjoyed
Thank you,
that.
Ryan. It
But
looked beautiful. The
but you
woman
should
that
listen.
decorated.
You should listen to my Janmashtami.
Yeah, I'm halfway through. I'm halfway through
Yeah,
listening.
because
Thank
I'm
you to whoever
really,
recorded it.
really, really covered that birth like I'd never done before, the whole thing, the Krishna's birth and put it in context. Okay.
Thank you,
Hey,
Ryan.
Gail, you there?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
How about
Guess why I'm in ecstasy right now?
why?
Because I just broke my fast with the New Jersey Janmashtami Prasadam, the palak paneer, and
Whoa,
that. Oh my
whoa.
God, my favorite was the palak paneer and the tapioca thing that you mentioned with the, I
What
guess,
was in
nuts or
it?
something.
What was in it?
Who cares? It was great.
It wasn't just tapioca. It had some,
No, it wasn't just tapioca. It was something crunchy in there.
it
Maybe
was,
peanuts. I don't
what,
know,
what was
but
that
it was.
crunch in that tapioca? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I didn't care. I'm not into recipes. I just want to know.
What else? What else did you break fast with?
Yeah, just those two things. But somebody made a cookie. I had that, you know, before. What is it? The day after Janmashtami, or no, the day after Prabhupada's appearance, and that was so good. I gave.
What did you do for
I
Prabhupada?
bring all the sweets to Joseph. I take the savories. I give him the sweets.
Wow. What did you do for Prabhupada's appearance day?
Oh, oh, not much. I just listened to
Oh,
various
yeah. That's the
Zoom
thing.
lectures
Prabhupada's so
online.
humble. He's born on Nandotsava,
Hmm.
where people are up to midnight and really can't worship him on that day so much, right?
Yeah, I mean to say, I couldn't even break my fast after Janmashtami. I had to break it after Prabhupada's appearance because then you get home late. Then there's so many lectures to hear that must hear lectures, you know.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And I do it by Zoom, you know. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just recovering on his appearance.
Yeah, I'm kind of recovering too. I did the Nirjal yesterday. No, I didn't do Nirjal. It wasn't
Hmm.
possible to do, but I fasted. And now Tota is going to bring me a salt lassi and some applesauce, and then I'll break it for lunch. But Madhavatiti Bhakati Janani, the days of Lord Hari give birth to devotion. So, okay, Gail, Hare Krishna, thanks for the report. Do you
I had
remember the,
questions, but I could see
do you
that it's
remember the
not a good.
different preparations at the New Jersey feast?
Well, I mean, I didn't take most of them because I also fasted. But I mean, like I said, the palak paneer, the tapioca, the what do you call it? You just mentioned it also. The kachoris.
Okay.
I didn't have. I missed out on that, but Ayani loved it. She loved everything
Okay.
that they
Okay.
served, which is, kind of.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Gail, thank you for your very challenging questions today.
I did have questions, but I can see that I'm not going to get a chance. So,
Okay, go ahead. You shoot one.
one? Oh God, which one?
Okay, just
Oh,
go.
okay. You know that you mentioned that exalted Prabhu who and they asked why did why didn't he take sannyas? And you said he didn't have the
The
dot,
passion,
dot, dot.
the passion. That's what he said, Mangal Maharaj, basically. But he went like this, indicating he didn't have the passion. In other words, sannyas was taken for preaching. And in a mission,
Oh,
preaching deals with moving material energy. It creates it creates a little bit people with the Kshatriya bhav.
oh. And you said Tamal Krishna Goswami, he took the facility as because he needed what facility for which ashram you talking about?
For sannyas,
Oh,
yeah, I mean, wherever he was, he made sure he was comfortable. That's all. Tamal Krishna.
like that, like that. Okay, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you. Mhm.
he was very organized.
Yeah. Whatever he needed for his preaching, he took that.
Right, and it wasn't a traditional sannyas, what he needed in his environment. I used to visit him in Oxford and Cambridge.
Hmm.
Yeah, he had quite a nice facility.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Anybody
Thank you,
else
Maharaj.
like to say hello or share anything?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Good. If you didn't say hello, I'd be so disappointed.
Yeah.
Thank you for class.
And they came over, this couple here came over to me and Tota on Monday, and we had a little abhishek of my Prabhupada, which was nice.
That was so nice, Maharaj.
Little pushpanjali and an artik, simple. And then I ate also the palak paneer saved, and Tota made,
Anyway, they had dal. They brought. Didn't y'all bring dal? Y'all brought the dal, huh?
what's that?
Somebody
Yes.
brought dal. It was you
Law
guys.
made the doll.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
La made the dal. And then I had speak, so you're on the screen now. Haribo.
Oh, Haribo.
Okay.
Haribo?
Yeah, okay. That and then Tota made paneer malai with some tomato cashew sauce, something like that. A few
That
other
was
things.
really good.
Yeah.
So we just we had a little something.
It was very nice,
Nice.
Maharaj. It was
Very
perfect. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for the invite. Great weekend.
Okay, yeah. And Radhastami coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Great.
Okay. Anybody else like to say hello?
Cool.
Otherwise, I'm going to look at the.
Raj, this is Krishna-katha. Thank you so much for the class. Every time it's such a pleasure, joy to hear from you. Thank you.
Well, it's such a pleasure to hear from you. So I'm looking at all the people that come, and I'm just offering my Koti Dandavats to everyone for coming to the class. Amala Kamala, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Hare Krishna.
They're from Israel a little bit. The war's a little bit not in war now, so that's at least there, so that's good. Okay. And Jagadish spent like several months there, right?
Yes.
So that was good for the yatra. Okay. And I saw you in
Thank you,
St.
Gurudev.
Petersburg, which was nice. That was
It was
great. Thank
nice.
you for coming. Okay. All right. I'm going to go now. Thank you all. Vancha Kalpa too.
Krishna Guru Maharaj.